Hello, I'm Sage Anderson, and for my case study, I chose the Tuskegee Syphilis study. So here's the poster I made. I'm going to kind of go through each slide talking about the abstract, the bioethical implications, and the conclusion of all of the study. So a general overview of the case is that the Tuskegee syphilis study was a scientific study known for being extremely unethical. The U.S. Public Health Service was working with the Tuskegee Institute to record the natural history of syphilis. The study was based on the idea that syphilis responded differently to black men, so the research was based on race, and only black men were asked to participate. A main contributor to the case's infamy is that the research doctors withheld treatment from the participants. This is because while the participants were being studied, penicillin became more widely available, and they were never offered treatment. The study went on for several decades, leaving the participants to be untreated for their conditions, eventually ending in a class action lawsuit. At the time, many ethical principles that we have come to know and use for our new research projects did not exist. There's actually quite a few ethical principles that came out of the fallout of this study, like the principles of justice, beneficence, and the collection of informed consent. So here are a few of the ethical issues that the ad hoc advisory panel detailed as they came up with the solution to end the study. So during the study, there was never any evidence of informed consent. There was known risks to human life and transmission of the disease during the time of the study. There was evidence that those from the control group that developed syphilis were moved to the syphilitic group, and it is not clear if those participants received treatment. The study was deemed ethically unjustified in 1932. This type of study would never be repeated. The scientific pluses of the Tuskegee study were hugely overshadowed by the violation of basic ethical principles. Congress should establish a permanent body to regulate, at a minimum, all federally funded research involving human subjects. So here is a list I compiled of a few bioethical impacts. So the study resulted in several new ethical rules. So after the conditions that the Tuskegee people were being treated were found out by the public, it resulted in the creation of the National Research Act of 1974. This introduced multiple reports, including two that were highly influential to bioethics. The first of the two reports introduced the Institutional Review Boards, or IRBs. These IRBs were put in place to oversee research from an ethical standpoint and to make sure the steps are taken to protect the welfare of human research participants. The second document was the Belmont Report. It defined three fundamental ethical principles: respect for persons, beneficence, and justice. Lastly, another principle that the report covered was informed consent. So, conclusion and reflection. I included this timeline to kind of show the amount of time it took for something to be done about this study. So, it was in 1932 that the study began, and in 10 years, penicillin became widely available, and the doctors never prescribed it or told the patients about the treatment. So a big thing about the study was that the patients who signed up were told that they wouldn't need to visit any other doctors, that the research doctors would be able to take the place of their normal doctor or physician. And many of the participants were also very poor and didn't really have very good doctors. So they were never even had a chance to find out about penicillin themselves. And it took 30 more years for there to be any kind of intervention, and eventually resulting in a lawsuit and the different bioethical impacts that I mentioned to take place. So here's my works cited, and thank you for listening to my presentation.